How we view our giving to God is very important in our spiritual growth.
2 tables. This is the Lord's table here. This is God's table. That's God's table. That's God's table. And the one, you know why this one ain't acting right? Because it's your table. This is your life. This is your life, and it won't get right. This is tithing. Y'all see this? This is what's left. Let me help you. If you can't manage this one little can ain't gonna help you out. And then the text says, how many of y'all ever seen this before? I will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out such blessing that you don't have room enough. That's what tithing. This is tithing.
March 5th is All Tithe Sunday. It's time to set your giving on fire.
The deadline for securing your spot on the Holy Land tour of Israel and the Steps of Paul through Greece trip with Pastor P is swiftly approaching. The all-inclusive trips cost $3,500 per person. Brochures are at the information centers. For more information, contact Pastor Brodus Perry at 501-663-3955.
The Music and Arts Department will host an old-fashioned gospel singing Wednesday, February 22nd at 6:30 p.m. Come out and sing along to all your favorites.
In today's celebration of our own hidden figures, we take a look at 2 trailblazers in the field of nursing, Mrs. Georgia Wiley and Mrs. Myrtle Harris.
Good morning, St. Mark. My name is Georgia L. Wiley. I was born in Morehead, Mississippi in 1934 and moved to Jenny, Arkansas, and I grew up there. In 1952, I graduated from Central High School in Lake Village. I was always helping people up and down the road, whether they were sick or whether they needed help walking. It was just a gift from God. I wanted to be a nurse, and I could either work in a hospital or go into service. And so I decided that I would try to work a hospital rather than go into service. I graduated from Tuskegee Institute, which is Tuskegee University, in 1957 with a degree in nursing education.
My name is Myrtle Hayes Harris. I'm a descendant of Brother Will Reynolds, who was one of the first deacons here at St. Mark, and Annie Reynolds, who was on the first usher board, my grandma. As I was growing up, I had a little doll, and my brother broke it one day, and I decided I was gonna go in the medical field somehow or another to patch up my little doll. Went to Dunbar High School, graduated in 1952. I wasn't old enough to go to nursing school when I graduated, so I had to go to Dunbar Junior College, which is now the Sue Cowan Library. So I went there a year until I got old enough to go to nursing school. And after I graduated high school and went to Dunbar Junior College that year, I had to go to Chicago to get a job to pay for my nursing school because black girls at that time could not be registered nurses here in Little Rock. And So I went to Chicago and worked that summer to get my money to go to nursing school. So I went to St. Louis City Hospital No. 2, Homer Phillips Hospital, and graduated. I worked in the operating room after graduation for several years, and then I moved to Chicago, worked at the University of Chicago in the operating room. My daddy got sick, so I had to come home and help take care of him. So that's why I'm back up in Little Rock.
Since there were only one black VA hospital in the United States of America, I applied to the VA hospital in Sepulveda, California, and was accepted. When I arrived there, they were shocked because they were not expecting a black nurse. And they did not know what to do with me. So finally it was decided that I would go to the director office every day for my assignment and for my days off. They meant as a way to get rid of me, but instead it was a blessing because I had to be on time. So it taught me promptness. I had to be dressed neatly, and then I got an opportunity to work with everybody in the hospital, to know everybody in the hospital, and I got an opportunity to work in every service of the hospital.
So I went to the VA to apply for an operating room job, and they told me they didn't have a vacancy. So I went to the medical center, had to go on to the pediatric ward and work for 4 months over there. Being the only black nurse at that time, the blood was divided, black and white, but we all bleed red. So, and then they had a black and a white telephone, and I asked them if I was to use the black phone, and they said, oh, no. You can use either phone, but the black doctors could only take care of the black patients, the little kids. And my life was threatened one day there. This white man had a little girl who was really sick, and he was eating in her room, and I had to ask him not to because I was the nurse on duty, in charge. So he told me no black girl was going to tell him what to do. So he had told me what he was going to do that night when I got off, and my brother had to come and meet me. So, but that was the only time my life was threatened. And the chief nurse had told me when I came, she said, you'll have run up against some adversities. I'm telling you now, she said, and your salary will be greatly cut from what you've been making. So I said, okay.
There were many adversities there. The white men did not want me to touch them sometimes. Nor did the staff know what to do with me. So most time I had to eat by myself or be by myself. In 1961, I left there and went back to Tuskegee, Alabama, to the VA hospital, and it was a joy. I had an opportunity along with a nurse, Carrie McCain, to set up the first intensive care unit in the VA hospital, and that consist of 6 critically ill patients. I was able to work in urology and an operating room. A need arose for me to have to go back home to Arkansas. So I applied to Little Rock, Arkansas in 1959 and was accepted. When I arrived there, they assigned me to the only black head nurse in the VA hospital, which was Doris Ferguson. And I think they wanted us to have disagreements and they could just get rid of us at the same time. But it didn't work like that. We worked it, since we were products of the same school, only she was 10 years later than me, graduating. We worked together real well, and our unit was the best inspected unit in all of the VA.
Well, the VA called. I guess they were ready to integrate the hospital. So I had to go over there a year and work on the orthopedic ward. After I left that orthopedic ward, I'd always worked in surgery. They had hired a surgeon from Hartford, Connecticut, who was a neurosurgeon, and of course he was from north of the Mason-Dixie line. They didn't want to help him. So I Started helping him, got all his instruments, his wants, dislikes, and likes. And they had 2 more neurosurgeons, so I had to take care of 3 neurosurgeons, all their procedures, all their instruments, and everything. So I worked at the VA for 30 years before I retired.
They never gave me a head nurse position, but they did make a position for me, and that was clinical nurse for education. In 1989, I retired from VA with 32 years of service. And this next month, I will be returning to Tuskegee University now to the Founders Day celebration and also to my 60th anniversary.
Celebrating our history makers, celebrating our firsts.